And welcome to another exciting episode of the Click Nation's Comic Book Chronicles. Yeah,
Yeah.
forgot we don't
Woohoo.
have our sound effects, man. Hold on,
Da-da!
what is that under effects?
Yeah.
As I
Oh.
wait for Google Effects to load. Let's see, headwear, eyewear, facials, props, sound.
Is it in the toolbox, maybe?
I'm clicking it, but no sound is coming.
I wonder if you can't do it after you start.
I feel like we've had this problem before.
We have, but this is right after they changed something though. Also, so
Yeah, because I've been able to do it as I've. Oh, oh well, who cares? I'm your host, Tim DOWG. And the laughter you hear in the background is from Roddy Cat,
Mhm.
and also
Spoon!
When are you going to get a camera?
I have a camera. It's just that you know what? That's a long story. I have a camera though.
we get to see what kind of avatar he has each week. This week it's Scotty Young Nova, and we also are joined by Dirk from PopCultureNetwork.com.
Yay! Woo!
Yeah,
Go to his website, PopCultureNetwork.com.
Cha-ching. Cha-ching, cha-ching.
And also go to theclicknation.com where you can find previous episodes of the Comic Book Chronicles and comic book reviews.
Blah, blah, blah.
This is starting off glorious.
Follow the Twitter account at theclicknation. Like the Facebook fan page, facebook.com/theclicknation. I'm still trying to sound just to make sure it's not working.
No.
Okay. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/theclicknation.
Ching.
Circle us on Google+. Search for
Ching.
The Click Nation. Subscribe on iTunes and Stitcher Radio.
Ching.
Make sure to give us the 5-star reviews and the thumbs up. And speaking of... Oh! Who did that?
That was me.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, he can get it to work.
Yeah.
Maybe
And speaking of iTunes reviews, we have a nice iTunes review from Seek Donnelly, former guest of the Comic Book Chronicles. He says, this show is really great. They keep things positive, have fun, and discuss all of my favorite nerdy topics. They're professional, treat their guests well, and are a blast to talk to. Subscribe and listen now.
See, he lies very well for us.
Yes, he does.
We appreciate it too.
Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Exploding Bullet, and support his Kickstarter.
Ellen Vital.
We're assuming that's how it's spelled.
Forgive if we butchered it.
Kickstarter?
Yeah, it just went. I think last week it was already funded and going out, I think.
Uh-oh.
And if you ever have any feedback you want to have read on a future show, send that on over to theclicknation@gmail.com. And also remember that we record live every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're ever home and you want to tune in, just make sure to stay tuned to theclicknation.com for when the post goes up. All right. Yep. Cashing them checks.
Oh, and by Thaniel, by Omar Spahi, which just came out this week.
Not this week. Yes, it did.
We got it like 2 weeks ago.
We did, but
Well,
other people
yeah.
didn't.
No, I mean, like, we got our print copies in our store like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, did it? Huh.
Yeah.
Got the hookup.
I
Holla
guess.
if you didn't. All right, let's see. We got some news that was from last week that we didn't get to on our abbreviated episode. One thing that probably went under the radar, but is a big deal for IDW, is IDW Entertainment and E1 strike a TV first look deal. So just like with Boom Studios and is it Fox signed a deal? Was it
That
Fox?
sounds right. But
So maybe we'll start seeing some IDW properties make it to our TV screens.
Yeah,
yeah,
like G.I. Joe, Ghostbusters, Transformers.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
stuff IDW does.
Doctor Who, My Little Pony.
Well, I was about to say Doctor Who's kind of already taken to.
Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah.
So stay tuned to see what happens with that.
Which, but it also basically just means that if I'm reading that right, that just means that they got first ones to get propositions. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to do anything with it. They
Right,
just want to look at it.
like there's other stuff coming out of IDW, like Dead World, for instance. Dead World has been published through IDW for the last, I think they're on their second miniseries maybe with IDW. So I think a property like that, Entertainment One or E1 or whatever they're called, they have the ability to go in first and say, hey, we'd like to develop a show off of this. Or
Right.
if someone else comes along and says, we want to develop a show off of Dead World, they would have to go over to them and say, hey, someone else is interested in this. Do you want to do something with it, or can we hand it off to these guys?
Okay. And we have Agent 70 joining us.
What's up? What's up?
Oh, I was gonna give you time to get situated, but you're rocking
Oh,
and
it's
rolling.
loading. It's loading. I'm just talking.
You know how this thing is. I expect the sound to be working for you already.
Just letting the effects load up. What's going on, fellers?
We are good, man. We just in the first news segment, which is the IDW E1 TV deal.
Actually, you just missed the interview we did with Alyssa Milano talking about we actually started an hour early, and she was on for the whole first hour. Now we're in news.
Breaking my heart, fella.
Catch the replay. Turn this TV down.
Oh, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, hashtag Comic Book Chronicles.
Yes, use that on Twitter and Facebook, since Facebook has hashtags now.
And if you got something, Instagram, Tumblr, we float around
Actually,
there.
Google Plus added hashtags too. So
Correct.
That's
Yeah.
it does.
yeah, you need something like Hootsuite that can cull through all those different social networks and pull them all into one feed.
It's a good thing I do have it.
Well, there you go.
I just need to use it more often.
Same.
What do you use, Dirk? Because I see you send stuff out and it goes Facebook and Twitter and Google Plus.
Actually, well, I've got a program called Friends Plus Me, which you go to Google Plus and you post, and then it reposts it to Twitter and Facebook.
Oh.
And then you can put different hashtags in your Google Plus post if you only want it to go to specific places. It also goes to LinkedIn, and it also goes to I forget where else I have it connected, but I mean, yeah, it's called Friends Plus Me, and I just I do everything on Google Plus, and then it just sends it out everywhere else.
Huh, cool. I wonder about that.
All right. In other news, just very quickly, so Superman Unchained is delayed. DC canceled orders for 8 and 9, and it's going to be resolicited at a later date.
Wah, 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 wah. I got to do that manual because you know what? That's what I feel. That's how I feel about that. It's like, seriously, Jim Lee? Really?
Series hasn't been great to me anyway, so.
That's true.
Should it be rechained?
Ah!
Yeah.
Well, it's going to end after 9 anyway, so.
That's right.
Oh, so I have on here some of the original Sin stuff. I guess I should mention the rant I went on I think it was last week. Roddy Cat was present for it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was trying to guess. So Marvel came out saying, giving some details on the original Sins with the plural S miniseries that is going to spin out from original Sin, and how it's going to it's all these different stories of like the Young Avengers and Deathlock and some other people I don't recall right now. But they also said that Deathlock's ongoing series would spin out of original Sin, and about 4 or 5 more solo books would be coming out of Original Sin. One being a female-led book. So I started connecting the dots, and basically I was spitballing the books I feel are going to be those 4 or 5. And I believe I favorited those tweets, so let me see if I can find them. So I said, so Deathlock is one. Axel Alonso already sort of teased on a CBR Axel in Charge that Spider-Woman would begin the series later on in the year. So that's 2. We know Ant-Man is going to be involved in the investigation during Original Sin, and he has a movie coming out. So that's 3. And Doctor Strange, we know is getting, we assume is getting a movie. So of course he's going to have a solo book to accompany it. So there's your 4.
And for number 5, all new Howard the Duck.
Ah!
Yes.
Well, you have to see how this week's all new Dupe #1 sells. Could be him.
Horribly.
Mm-mm.
Well, people like Dupe, but hey.
It's one of those books that people walk into the shop and they go, "Oh wow, Dupe is getting his own book. That's weird," and then put it right back on the shelf and go on to something else.
Or you could be like at DavidMac90 on Twitter today and ask me how come Slimer from Ghostbusters had his own book.
I was just thinking about that.
I would read a Slimer book.
Hey, aren't we getting our Ghostbusters relaunch movie soon? Maybe. Let's see. So DC announced some new #1 relaunch books this week. Teen Titans is being relaunched with basically the very same cast minus a Superman and Flash family member from each family. And Suicide Squad is being relaunched as New Suicide Squad, adding Deathstroke, Joker's daughter, and someone else I'm forgetting.
You sure it's not all new Suicide Squad?
Nope, just
Suicide Squad now?
It was Joker's daughter, Deathstroke, and Black Manta.
Sure. Okay.
I'll be checking out.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'll be checking out both books because at least Teen Titans, because Will Pfeiffer, I hope that's how you say his last name, is writing the Teen Titans book, and he's currently doing a 3-issue stint on Red Hood and the Outlaws, which the first issue came out like last week or week before last, and it was pretty fun. And I was all bummed because they announced beforehand, before they even announced he was on Teen Titans, they announced that Pfeiffer was just doing 3 issues of Red Hood and the Outlaws, and then Scott Lobdell would be coming back to take over the writing gigs. So I was like, oh, right when I was getting ready to jump back on Red Hood and the Outlaws, I guess not. So I'll switch out that for Teen Titans now. And Kenneth Rocafort is the artist with Pfeiffer on Teen Titans, who I like, so I can deal with that.
Cool.
Suicide Squad, I don't know anything about the creative people on that one, but if the artist is the guy that actually did the promo image for it, then I'll give it a chance.
I was going to ask you, did Teen Titans, did the same thing about that Teen Titans taking up where the last book ended?
I mean, they say it's gonna, it'll spin out of Forever Evil and whatever else event stuff is going on in other books.
Okay.
So at Dorkikas tweets at us, so whelmed by the Young Avengers news, and that's a callback to Young Justice, the cartoon show. Basically saying how he's not excited for Young Avengers. I'm actually excited if Young Avengers gets a new series out of Original Sin, but with a different writer on it than Kieran Gillen. Then it might actually be interesting.
I thought it was picking up. I mean, it had a charm to it.
Yeah, it actually picked the first 4 issues I wasn't crazy about, and then after that it was alright, but it was a different take. It wasn't superhero-y action stuff, which of course that's why I read superhero books, because that's what I want.
All right.
What else we got in news? Yeah. So the people out there that actually read Archie Comics, Archie is gonna die.
Dun dun dun.
Now that calls for the ominous music.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
But not for real.
Yes.
Ah!
Before you go crazy, it's the adult Archie that's apparently has a parallel dimensions going on or something.
Oh,
It's the
Lord,
Life
is
with
that
Archie
really what it
series.
is?
No,
Yeah.
but it's
It-
basically him as an adult. In one side he's married Betty, and the other side he's married Veronica. They just got 2 books out of it. I think 3 actually, right?
Well, no, it's one book called Life with Archie, and it comes in like a big magazine-sized format.
Right.
And the first half of the book is the story of him with, Veronica, and then you get to the middle of the book, and it's his life with Betty.
Okay, I thought those were 2 books.
No, it's just one book.
I got you. Either way, he's dying. That one's dying, and I'm probably gonna read it.
I'll listen. I'll wait to see what y'all think about it.
I grew up. That was probably one of the earliest comics I've read. So there is a soft spot for it. Well, Archie in general, I should say. But
What
they
they've
have
done the
some-
last few years, I just don't want anything to do with Archie nowadays. It's like they're too trend hopping, bandwagon jumping. They're
changing with the times, man.
yeah, but they're not like changing with any sort of direction. It's just like ripped from the headlines in this issue of Archie, and it's like, come on,
Yeah.
This
There is
week
that.
on a very special issue of Archie.
Okay. I guess the biggest news from the week, and actually today, since it came out at the end of the day, was Amazon acquiring Comixology.
Holy smokes!
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure how that really changes much of anything. Comixology was already on. They have their own version of the app for the Amazon tablets. Amazon also sold books directly through their newsstand, which I assume will drop in favor of doing it through Comixology. But I really don't see, unless they're going to make like a dedicated app for the Fire TV, maybe. But even then, it's not like they're going to stop selling them on iPad and regular Android. It's not like, anything else is going to disappear. It's just, I just don't know how it makes sense other than the fact that maybe what they sell through the Amazon newsstand is like, 2% of digital comic sales, and Comixology is 80% of digital comic sales, so they're just grabbing something that generates cash. But as far as how it changes anything day to day with Comixology itself, I don't see how anything changes.
I don't think
Right.
it'll change the day-to-day for Comixology. What I think it does do is kind of establish the Comixology brand as something bigger now. We know as let's face it, we're inside. We're not insiders, but we're amongst the choir, so to speak. So putting Comixology on the Amazon homepage is a huge step up.
Right, and just like when Tim was talking before the show, Amazon hasn't so far has a history of acquiring stuff to absorb it. Like you can go through some of their other properties and what they own, and they just let them do their thing. And like you said, Dirt is pretty much more cash for them in that respect. And yeah, they probably will use the restream their newsstand into that if they're logical, which they seem to be in cases. But so it's more of just an acquisition in that respect than them having any other overarching goals with it.
Although I have to say, the idea of Comixology on Fire TV is kind of appealing. The idea of sitting back in your easy chair staring at your 50-inch TV screen and flipping through panel by panel of a comic is a pretty appealing idea.
Right. Could very well happen. So, congrats to Comixology, basically.
Seriously. And like I said before,
how long until all the others just dry up and go away? I mean, there's Comics Plus, And they only exist really for like Archie, IDW, Boom. You know, they get the weird stuff like Blue Water and whatever, but they don't have any Marvel or DC. They don't, can't get any of that stuff. And you've got other like weird, there's like Long Box or something like that, and they just do like Top Cow and Dynamite and Blue Water and
Dark Horse.
Yeah, Dark Horse has their own, but I mean, Dark Horse for doing their own thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're obviously happy with where they're at. There were rumors that Marvel was going to start developing their own system, like where your digital copies would unlock in Marvel Unlimited, as opposed to unlocking in Comixology. But apparently, there was enough heat on that idea that they quietly dropped that plan, at least for now. So, but I'm just kind of looking at some of these other places like Drive-Thru Comics and Comics Plus, and just kind of wondering how much life they actually have left in them.
What I suspect is I think there will probably be a few more acquisitions, mergers, secret handshakes, because I mean, Dark Horse, I think on their app they are selling Dynamite's books. They don't have I don't think they bought Dynamite, but they do. They have associated themselves with it. So I suspect there will probably be more of that going along. It's like, hey, this is happening, so we need to just kind of gather up together and shore up.
But the big thing, though, is that nobody outside of Comixology has the high definition books. So if I get a book on Comics Plus, it's going to be coming in, I think it's like 1,300 by 900 is the size of the page. But if you buy it through Comixology, you're going to get it like 2,300 by 1950 or something like that. Like, it's a huge difference in the size of the book. So it's much clearer, much sharper. It looks so much better on Comixology on a high definition device that none of the other companies can touch. And so that's kind of one thing that, once somebody has one of those high-end devices and they look at what Comixology looks like, they're never going to go, if I can get the book from Dynamite through Dark Horse and get it in regular definition, or if I can buy the same book at the same price but get it through Comixology and get it in that high definition format, then, I mean, there's no contest.
Agreed. But there's always going to be those people who's like, Comixology's big company now. I'm going to go over here to this one.
Rabble.
Yeah.
I'm going to drink my PBR and wear my Arizona Cardinals t-shirt, and I'm going to buy my books off Comics Plus.
Exactly. Or it'll be something like, Comixology's DRM to all the hell, and so these books are not, or something like that and is going on. So definitely I'm going to go over here.
Okay. Is there any other newsworthy things to bring up?
Yes. Well, you know what? Nah, I'll wait on that because I'll talk about the book later. So.
Oh. Okay.
It'll go along with the book I'm going to talk about. So.
Oh, okay. Well, do you want to? You can start us off with reviews if you'd like.
Well, do you want me to talk about the Free Comic Book Day stuff?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What? No one saw the movie?
No one
Free
else.
Comic Book Day, the movie? No.
No one else besides me. So.
I saw it.
And we'll table.
So we're not even I was gonna say we're not even talking about Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the fallout. Wow.
Okay. Yeah, we can.
Yeah, I say go ahead and spoil it if you want. You're not.
Yeah, exactly. I won't spoil it.
We'll say Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. tied in directly with America was the Winter Soldier this week.
Well, isn't it the #1 movie in America? So most people have seen it. Just a couple of us who have been too cheap to go to the movie theater. So you can go ahead and talk about it like everybody. Sounds like everybody has.
I mean, you must be having a hard time avoiding it in the store, Dirt.
Honestly. Nobody. I mean, people come in and they're like, "Oh, did you see it? It was really cool." It's like, no. It's like, "Oh, you got to see it." And that's the whole conversation.
They don't want to spoil it. They're part of the choir too.
I will say that even with the direct tie-in to the #1 movie that of April all-time April records, it still didn't give a ratings boost to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
I think it's because people are avoiding it. They don't want to spoil anything if they did make it out to the movies, and I definitely think that plays a part of it. I didn't watch it Tuesday night just because I didn't get around. I didn't have time. But I can definitely see that if I didn't watch Captain America this past weekend, I would not have wanted to watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. at all.
It was entertaining.
I liked it. I thought it was good, and I think that it's picking up. I definitely think that they're turning some expectations on their heads, if you know what I mean.
Okay. So, free comic book day.
All right,
go ahead.
Well, I guess some things here we can just kind of throw out there real quick. There are tons of kids' books, of course, as usual. Some of the stuff you're going to see out there, like Teen Titans Go, and it's basically printing the DC digital the stuff that was like a half page per screen stuff that was their 99-cent digital comic is being actually reprinted in a paper comic, so kids can get that. One thing I thought was interesting is that there is an Uncle Scrooge book that's actually coming out with 2 different covers for Free Comic Book Day. So you've got a blue cover. No, it's actually, wait, listen here. It's a sideways white version of the cover, and then you've got a straight up and down blue version of the cover. And it's like the same picture, except I don't know why they did it that way, but they just kind of flipped them over like that. So.
Do you have to read the horizontal one that way?
No, it's exactly the same book on the inside. They just put different covers on it for whatever reason. But it's old Don Rosa stories, so they're fantastic. There's an Archie Digest, but it's all reprint stuff, and kind of like we were talking earlier, having a fondness for some of the old Archie stuff. These are like some of the classic stuff that's, not controversial or anything, safe for kids and everything like that. A lot of stuff like, Bongo, Bleeding Cool has a magazine. There's a Hello Kitty sampler. There is something that they've done with Sonic the Hedgehog the last couple of years is they do original stuff for Free Comic Book Day, so it's not just all reprint stuff. And this year it's Flip Book with Mega Man X. So if you're into the video games and the comic book tie-ins, this is original stories you can get in that. That's pretty cool. Street Fighter is doing an oversized book from Udon Studios. This is magazine size, and it's the anime-inspired artwork that you expect from the Street Fighter books. It's actually really cool, and because it's, if you compare it to the size of another comic, you can see that it's got an extra 1.5 inches, almost 2 inches in size here along the sides. It's so much bigger. The artwork's beautiful, so that's definitely worth checking out. One book that stands out to me that was actually a lot of fun to read was a book called Fubar. And Fubar is actually, it's like straight military comics set in a universe with zombies.
Ah, nice.
Of course.
Well, we know I was about to say, we know what Fubar stands for, right, people?
Yeah, and big World War II term. And it is done like straight-laced, like straight arrow. Like if you read something like The Activity or a book like that is a straight up-and-down military book, that's exactly what this is, except they run across zombies.
Awesome.
So it's got some really neat stuff. And this is all set in basically Iraq War, Afghanistan type stories on that. So it's kind of, timely, whatever, too. So that was kind of neat to read that. I think the big books this year you've got from Valiant, you've got their Armor Hunters. This is basically just a sampler book, and the sampler gives you part of the story from Armor Hunters and part of the story from Exo Manowar. But if you're interested in what's going to be happening with that crossover, this is your first look into that. Marvel is going whole hog with Guardians of the Galaxy. You've got a Guardians of the Galaxy book, and then you've got a Rocket Raccoon special. And the two of these together, shows you really where they're putting all their eggs in what basket. The big thing with Guardians of the Galaxy is they are adding a new team member to Guardians of the Galaxy. And if you want to see who's joining Guardians of the Galaxy, you can see right there. There's your new team member for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, that was a known issue, I think.
And then Rocket Raccoon, I think it's all actually reprint material. It looks like it's from the Marvel Adventures line, that kid-friendly line of books that they did a couple years ago. They all had the red banner across the tops of Marvel Adventures. I think it's just reprint stuff from that. But again, good for kids. It's going to get them into the right frame of mind. And it's got the Scotty Young cover for everybody who likes Scotty Young artwork. The big one from DC here, though, it's kind of the same thing they've been doing the last couple of years of pushing a big crossover story on Free Comic Book Day, is the Futures End Zero. And this is setting up the big DC storyline, which, as you can see, is Batman Beyond coming back to the regular DC universe. I'm going to say straight up that when you start reading this, you are going to think that this is Age of Ultron in the DC universe.
Oh my god!
But
Great.
But I will say, by the end of the issue, it goes out on its own path, almost as if they kind of looked at Age of Ultron and said, you know what, I think maybe we could do a better job. And that's kind of what this is going at. There's some neat twists. Batman Beyond is actually, the way the story starts is that he's not supposed to be the central character. And then basically all hell breaks loose, and he ends up being the one that the book focuses on out of necessity, and I'll just kind of leave it at that without giving too many spoilers. But this does tie into that whole DC going 5 years into the future storyline. This does tie into some of the stuff that we know is currently going on with OMAC and Brother Eye and all that kind of stuff. And ties in the continuity of Batman Beyond. So it's like a whole bunch of stuff coming together into another big crossover event, and this one actually has a lot of good stuff going on. So I think of all the stuff that I've read so far from Free Comic Book Day, that Futures End is going to be the one that everybody needs to go to the store and make sure they get a copy of that, because that one actually looks like a lot of fun.
Okay. Cool.
I think we lost Tim.
Yeah, he just stepped away for a second. So if anybody wants to start up a book.
Are we going to do a review?
Huh?
Who wants to review something? Don't everybody start at once.
Yeah, no, I'm
really.
looking. You know what it is? I'm looking at the list that you guys put up.
All right, I'm gonna start then.
All right.
With Batman Eternal #1.
Okay.
Because I think that's a good one to start with. In short order, I loved this book. This book it wasted no time jumping into the story. A bunch of stuff goes down right away. You're introduced to a new character in the DC universe that looks like he might end up being someone important in the long run. And James Gordon is arrested for murder. And
or mass destruction.
Yeah.
A murder, I guess, too, because I forgot about the
urban terrorist, maybe. I'm not sure exactly what they're going to charge him with. But I just loved. I thought the artwork was great. The story. By the time you got to the end of the issue, I was like, "Holy crap! Like, what the hell is going to happen next?" And then I realized I don't have to wait that long. This is going to be coming out a lot faster than regular books. This is a weekly, so I'm really looking forward to getting into this story. It was really good. Who else read it?
I read it. I enjoyed it too. The only, if I were to like nitpick, and I guess for a weekly, maybe this is how weekly books are. It seemed like a lot was packed into this one issue.
Well,
which I guess is a bad thing, because it could have just been boring.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, it's probably just as part of the hook. Like, they got to do something big at the beginning to hook you in so that you'll want to come back. Kind of like 24. It's like you have to have a nuke go off in the first 2-hour premiere in order to make you want to sit and see the fallout, Yeah.
So we were introduced to a new member of the Gotham police department.
Who looks like he could be the new Gordon, in a sense.
Hmm.
He looks uncorruptible. Incorruptible?
Oh,
Incorruptible?
and they did the nice ploy of start the issue off showing you the end, and then backtrack to the beginning.
And there's obviously Gordon was set up. Like there was something happened. So he's obviously innocent, and he's been set up for this event in order to throw him into jail. But of course, the questions are who and how they did it, because it didn't. I don't want to say it didn't make sense. Like I'm sure it'll make sense in the long run, but obviously something happened that you can't quite explain. That'll play out as part of the mystery of the series. Sounded like someone just fell through a wind tunnel.
What did I miss after Armor Hunters for your free comic book day list?
Oh,
Miss anything after that?
Guardians of the Galaxy. They're showing how Venom joins the team for Free Comic Book Day. There's a Rocket Raccoon book, but it looks like it's just reprints of the kid stuff that they did with Marvel Adventures.
Right.
And then New 52 Futures End that ties in the Batman Beyond to the regular DC universe.
Gotcha. And what day is Free Comic Book Day? May 3rd? 7th?
It's the first Saturday in May. It's always the first Saturday in May.
Cool. Roddy Cat, do you want to discuss the book you were alluding to earlier?
Sure, I will get on that. Federal Bureau of Physics, number 9, soon to be a major motion picture.
Oh, really?
Yes, as a matter of fact, going back to when you were talking about the Street Fighter books, they have the writer of what is it? Warner Brothers hires the Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li writer for the adaptation to the movie.
Is that good or bad?
It's good because, see, I mean, because it's not like this is not a book that could not be made into a movie, so that part is good. The thing is,
yeah, but the writer of Chun-Li.
well, I just picked up that particular miniseries actually, but I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so I don't know on that part.
Oh, I thought you meant the movie.
What?
The writer of the Chun-Li movie.
Oh no! Oh, no!
Oh,
God, no.
okay.
No.
Yes, there was a Chun-Li movie.
Yes,
I know,
there was.
that's why I was asking, because I'm like,
Okay.
they took the writer of that movie and
Oh,
they're
hell
giving them
no.
another movie?
No. No.
Poor Kristen Crook.
That person needs to find another line of work. But no, they're the writer of the Udon miniseries Legend of Chun-Li book is writing the screenplay or the adaptation to the movie that they're optioning for Federal Bureau of Physics. So, like I said, I haven't had the chance to read it yet, so I don't know how good that part is, which was weird that I have to keep it up. I mean, happen to pick it up. But as far as the book proper, this book is still only 9. Well, it's only 9 issues, and while things have happened, like it has just gotten into a point where they're in the middle of their second case basically as a team, and they have gone into a town that is known for strange phenomena in a world that's already filled with strange phenomena anyway that the team investigates on a daily basis. But this particular time seems to have embraced it. Think of your Roswell, New Mexico's, or what have you. There's a parallel to Eureka, I'm thinking. I'm sorry?
I was just asking if you had seen that TV show Eureka.
I was just about to bring that up. Yes, there is a little bit of that in there also. But the team kind of gets themselves, well, not gets themselves, but they get themselves to investigate something that the head of the team, whose friend is there, kind of not necessarily discovered, but has been checking around for. But this story does just like I think last the last issue was the one that just really started them on this path. This is a pretty good book, I think. I mean, I have enjoyed it because of there's a little bit of Eureka, maybe some X-Files going on. I think you mentioned last time we talked about this Dirt Fringe.
Oh, right.
Yeah, a little bit of that. So I've been enjoying it so far.
You know, now that you mention that, I remember thinking that I need to read this, and I hadn't got around to it. I'm gonna have to make a note of this to check out the series.
It is a very paced book, I will say, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But because it just seems like there's nothing going on, but there is, because it has jumped from getting a little bit of a backstory and either tying it into what's going on then, or kind of tying it into something later on in the book that's going to happen.
You have to consider your comic book not a success if it's not picked up for some type of TV or movie deal?
You kind of have to wonder about that nowadays. Like I said, I kind of figured that this was a book that could work pretty decently, depending on where they're going with it. And being that they have, actually, I think the writer of this book, well, I'll check it out later, because I think it's the same writer. The same writer who's doing the Chinley book is actually the writer of this book. And they said that the writer of this book is also doing the treatment for it. So that might be the same person, but I have to go back and look at that article to check. So clearly there must be something going on. They're going to go someplace with it in the movie as opposed to the book.
Interesting.
So, there was something else I was going to say about this, but I can't remember what it was. So, and I don't know where I put my notes. So, but yes, I have enjoyed reading this book, and I will continue to enjoy reading books. I am kind of worried about the movie part about it, because it could very well be it could be a decent movie, or it could be a not so good movie, depending on how they play it.
Okay. I will pick a book now. Where's my list?
I'm looking just real quick. Street Fighter Legends Chun-Li miniseries was written by Kin Soo Chong.
Okay, so it's not the dude, but I know the dude that writes the FBP did a treatment for the movie, so I'm not sure what the tie is there. They might be just going off an outline. I guess who's ever writing the screenplay is writing from the treatment.
All right.
I'm going to mention All New X Factor number 6.
Your least favorite X-Men book?
One of my most favorite X-Men books.
Oh.
Peter David's taken this oddball team of assembled X-Men, and he finally forms the full team with this issue. He's been slowly adding members as the series has gone on. So last issue we introduced Warlock. Is that his name? Warlock? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
And this issue is Doug Ramsey. And of course they have the bromance is back.
You can't have one without the other.
And I like the portrayal of
Self is happy. Self.
Yeah, I forgot the way Warlock speaks, so that was refreshing to see. And I liked how Peter David portrayed the Magus, Warlock's father. He was like a crazy wild man that was still in control of himself. Like because last issue Warlock is actually working alongside his father, even though they've always been enemies. And then this issue, when Doug Ramsey is introduced, Warlock's like, okay, I'm gonna leave and go back with Doug. And like Magus flips out and like throws a tantrum. And then it's like, okay, if that's what you want, fine, leave. It's like he got to like the 9, like from 0 to 10, he went to like a 9.9 in anger, and then dropped all the way back down to a 1. It was just pretty funny.
Is it a humorous book overall, or is it just they put some funny moments in there?
It's not like ha funny, but it's like, it's got the quick wit writing in it. This may be an X book you'd enjoy.
No, that's impossible.
Speaking of books we might not both have enjoyed, Dirt, All New Ultimates #1.
Yeah.
I read that. I didn't have a chance to put it on my list, but I did read that. So
I saw the comment Dirt put in the spreadsheet. So
well, wait. Let's hear what Agent 70 has to say first before we chime in.
Okay.
I found myself reading this book just kind of struggling with the premise. You know, I didn't like the opening scene. I'm like, really? The Asian kid gets beat up? Spoiler alert. I'm like, really? They open with the Asian kid getting beat up? As soon as I read that, it was not downhill for me, but my expectations for the issue were pretty, basically were reduced by a large margin at that point. Honestly, it's an okay first issue. Other than that, I'll be willing to give it a second issue after this. I did not read Dirt's comments, so I'm kind of waiting with bated breath to hear what he has to say about it.
All I said is that this book is not going to last. It's one of those things where you've got a ragtag group of teens who are coming together to be this superhero team, and so, of course, the first thing they go up against is some sort of new street drug that's giving people powers on the street, and it just feels like, the Ultimates, the idea of the Ultimates, it was the Ultimate Universe version of the Avengers. They were supposed to be the big team. They were the top dogs of the universe, and so these kids are going to step up and fill the shoes of Thor, Captain America, and Iron Man. So the story they put together was them beating up a bunch of street thugs who have, Nuke from RoboCop 2 that they're selling on the streets. And I just, I got to the end of it, and I'm like, I don't feel, inspired. I don't feel awed. I don't feel like there was anything all that special about this book as far as the story goes.
I think the title is supposed to be kind of ironic.
That's not what they're going for.
No, only because I think I've read solicits that this is the new kind of street level team, and like I said, it's kind of ironic that they would take on the moniker of, like you said, the equivalent of the Avengers.
Well, the other thing was I read the letter from the writer on the final page of the book. And one of the things he says was, I wanted them to operate by the skin of their teeth and resist authority if they had to, and deal with realistic emotional currency, sexual identity, life and death. And I just read that, and I'm like, that's not what I want to read. That's everything that you say you want to tell us is not something I'm interested in all reading. So I may give this 1 or 2 more issues just because. But if it just kind of stays on the track it's on, I'm gonna bail. It's not a book for me.
Felt like the Ultimate Power Pack or something.
No, it definitely. You know what? You know what's funny about this? It honestly felt like a new Teen Titans book. It's almost a better version of New Teen Titans, and it's kind of a throwback. Honestly, now that I think about it, it's kind of a throwback to some of the '80s New Teen Titans books. The Wolfman Perez era. They had a lot of anti-drug and coming of age type stuff in those books. It's now that I think about it, it's actually not a bad comparison.
That's kind of like saying that RoboCop 3 had a lot in common with RoboCop.
Yeah.
Well, it's it had a lot in common, but it was nowhere in the same league. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
This is.
Well, listen. You don't have to pass.
The more I think about it, the more it just feels like a missed opportunity. Like they had a chance to say, here are these characters and this is why you should care about them. And instead, it was just here's a bunch of dopes who are kind of moping their way through, and they're probably going to mess up most of the time, but eventually they're going to win, and so that's why they're going to be heroes.
Yeah, Dorgeekus tweets at us that the all-new Ultimates felt like an 80s gang movie, and the first words out of my mouth right after I read that was Warriors.
Yeah, but not even
Come
that
out
good.
and play. Oh.
I was excuse me. I think like I said, when I finished it, it's not like I disliked it. I didn't know really what to think, and I'm not sure if a big part of that is I wasn't familiar with the creative team on it, the writer or the artist. I've never read any of their work before, so
Well, I kind of look at it this way. In professional wrestling, you cheer for the good guys and you boo the bad guys. And the worst thing that can happen is when someone walks through the curtain and there's no reaction from the crowd. You know, if you walk through the curtain and everybody in the place is booing at you, even if you're a good guy and everybody boos at you, that's a reaction. You know, John Cena gets booed out of the building most of the places, but that's still a reaction. The crowd is invested; they care one way or another. I got to the end of this book and it was just kind of like, meh. You know, it's like no reaction. You know, it's like I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It was just, you know, like why did I read this? You know. So
right.
that's where I just kind of chalk it up.
Okay.
All
Anyone
right.
else want to mention another book?
I'll throw in something. Speaking of, just reading something out of the blue, and because it was a #1, I decided to flip through as Flash Gordon #1 from Dynamite Entertainment. Flash.
That was on my list. I just didn't get to it.
So, without spoiling too much, they definitely try to update the Flash Gordon origin story and put it into modern times. So
Is
one
that
of
good or
the,
bad?
I think it's probably for the best. I think it would have been very difficult to make him the quarterback of the New York Jets because they suck. You know what I mean?
No,
You know.
I don't follow sports.
Oh, that's right. Well, but you know what the reference is, right? He was the quarterback of the New York Jets in the in the movie. So, but yeah, it would have been kind of difficult. You know, Mark Sanchez got cut, and that would have been tough to have him be the cut quarterback, or have him be the the current quarterback, whose name escapes me for some reason. He used to play for West Virginia, Geno Smith.
Okay, so anyway, Flash Gordon. Is he
Anyway.
good?
Flash Gordon, the art is actually pretty good by Evan Shaner. The story, it's kind of hard to describe. It's a lot of dimension jumping and time jumping, and they don't really establish a lot of how we've gotten, to a certain place. So there's definitely a little bit of a learning curve between this issue and, hopefully the next issue if you decide to pick it up. I think the characterization is fairly strong. You kind of have to be familiar with some of the main characters, or at least the three main characters, which are Flash, the chick, whose name escapes me again, and Ming the Merciless. If you know who those folks are, those are the three primary characters. You can sort of follow along. And,
Wait, does Ming the Merciless have a Fu Manchu?
I want to say yes, but I have to flip through and double check.
Because that's key.
Yeah, he's got to have it. He's got to be recognizable, and I'm fairly certain he has the Fu Manchu.
Okay.
So would I recommend this? Honestly, if you're looking for a change of pace, it's not bad.
Cool.
And he's not the Jets quarterback, so that's a good thing. Sorry, all Jets fans.
Hey, I'm gonna go.
Step up.
Yeah, throw it out there. Unless you guys want me to do back to back.
Hold on, let me. I guess I've almost done all mine. Avengers Undercover #2. If you enjoyed Avengers Arena, you'll of course enjoy this. So the team goes down to Bagalia to, they believe, rescue their member of the group that escaped Arcade's murder world, Cullen. but they find out he's not in danger. He's enjoying himself down in Bagalia with the Masters of Evil. He feels it's a place where he can just be himself, and people don't look at him as like, oh, it's the poor guy that had to do all that bad stuff in our murder world. No one's judging him. They respect him. And then some other like villains are sort of sucking up to different members of the survivors. And like the only person that's not falling for it is, I think her name's Cammy, she was the girl that had the spacesuit in Avengers Arena.
Okay.
And Damien, for villains, we see Constrictor and Madam Mask and Damon Hellstrom, which I guess that's who that is on the cover with Cullen there.
When did Damon Hellstrom go bad? I thought he was kind of, a good guy for a little while, or at least
he actually doesn't. Well, in this, he isn't really act bad. He's like a mentor to Cullen in a way. He could be a villain. I just don't know. I honestly don't know anything about him.
All right.
And I think that's all I read this week.
All right.
Well, besides all new XMen, but nothing really happened in that.
Yeah, that was kind of a letdown, except for the very end, which was kind of a cool ending. You want to just throw out all new XMen real quick?
Yeah, it's basically Beast and his guilt over all the time distortion.
All the time travel, right?
Yeah, he's been causing.
Right. So
that's right. This is the book that's full of pinups, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a huge letdown. That was a huge, huge letdown. That it was just all pinups, and there wasn't all that much going on. It's kind of interesting to see who he's talking to because, hint, hint, it's not Professor X. I think that's what that's what they were implying at the beginning, but it's somebody else. And at the end, it's just like it's kind of a cool ending. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
Which no doubt ties into Original Sin.
Yeah, has to.
So I guess this is their way of teasing is Beast the killer?
Possibly. Quite possibly.
And I believe Dork Geekus has sort of teased this before, especially with like the future version of Beast being a villain. Why doesn't he just turn full on heel mode? Why can't he kill the Watcher? He's already done crazy stuff like bring the original X-Men to the present, and we've seen Dark Beast in the Age of Ultron.
Oh, that's because it's Age of Apocalypse.
Age of Apocalypse, whatever.
All right.
So
that was the original Dark Beast.
Maybe he finally just goes over the edge. We saw him in the future. He's evil. He's on the Brotherhood of Evil, or the Brotherhood they call themselves.
Right.
But since they've teased it, of course it won't be the Beast. But I could see it.
Yeah, I could see it.
Unless they tease the Beast, so you think it won't be the Beast, but then it is the Beast.
Oh.
Right. Double cross.
Don't. Was our ominous music?
I got it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So throw something. Someone else throw something out.
Here, I got something.
Oh.
What's that?
I was just gonna throw out Magnus Robot Fighter.
Go for it.
Please do.
I really loved the first issue. I thought it was a great way to introduce the character. It showed you him in this idyllic setting, and then suddenly he wakes up and he's in this apocalyptic future. He doesn't understand what's going on, and it was a good way to set up the character and add some tension to the story. So, second issue, I was a little afraid if they'd be able to kind of keep up the interest, but I have to say they did a really good job in this book. The artwork, again, looks really good. It has a little bit of a throwback style to it, which I enjoy, but there's a lot of stuff, like when you're reading the book, he wakes up, he's disoriented, he's in this big white room, and you think that maybe the guy is just kind of lazy doing backgrounds, but then you realize it's a holding cell. It's supposed to look like an endless void. He figures out, he's beginning to figure out how his powers work. He's robot fighter not just because he's a guy who likes to punch machines, but he actually has some sort of connection with the machine world, and he can hear the signals that the robots send to each other, and he can interpret them as speech. Even though no other humans can. It just has a lot of really intriguing character developments, and just the more I got through the book, the more I was enjoying it. And it also sets up. There's like a character who seems really annoying in the first couple pages, but then as the book goes along, you find out that it's a result of programming gone wrong, and the reason why that particular robot is in a bad space is because he is really annoying, and so it just kind of it's not there just to kind of make you mad. It's actually there as a plot point. So I just really kind of I was impressed by how well they kept it going in the second issue, and I'm just as excited to read issue 3 as I was waiting for issue 2 to come along. So Magnus Robot Fighter is definitely staying on my list.
And it will be read this weekend.
And you will love it.
Because who doesn't love kicking a good robot?
That's what I'm saying. I walk into Best Buy and I get thrown out because I break everything.
Any other books?
Yeah, let me throw out a couple real quick. Mighty Avengers number 9.
Greg Land's back drawing it.
Yeah. So
I did read this, so I can chime in on this. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it's basically after the events of last issue, Adam Brashear's son is basically trying to open up a portal to another.
The neutral zone.
The neutral zone, yeah, and trying to pull out his brother, Adam's son, and while that ends up getting wrapped up fairly quickly, you see a little backstory into Adam family history. It seems like there's probably going to be might be setting up a little bit more for Original Sin in spots. Can't really say, but it was a decent. It was a good read. So, but what were you thinking?
Well, honestly, when I read this, it was kind of, I'm happy to see the developments for the Blue Marvel. I'm happy to see some of his story being fleshed out. I'm happy to see, the character being developed. So that's definitely a good thing. It's funny that, the cover is basically involves like a couple pages of the entire book.
Pretty much, and it's more specific to the last couple, but yeah.
Right. I give Al Ewing credit. There's some pretty snappy writing in this book. That kind of takes you out and just makes you, it actually forced me to laugh a couple of times. Like, oh, you know what? I kind of dig where this guy's going with some of this. Like, yeah, it's kind of self-deprecating and definitely self-conscious about, kind of poking fun at itself and some of the funny things in it. Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing.
Yeah, so, honestly, I thought that the cover is definitely misleading. Definitely could have been a lot more Blue Marvel. But, I guess they need to have people pick this up and say, hey, we're going to show you who Ronan is, even though we've already told the entire internet twice over.
Yeah, it's not like that was like the worst kept secret ever.
You know what I'm saying?
And actually, I'm thinking about there's the miniseries on called Adam the Blue Marvel that came out a few years ago.
Yes, I have every issue. I'm one of the only people in the comic book store to buy it.
Yeah, and I need to go back and read that because I have that I have that laying around somewhere else in the Marvel. It's on the Marvel site, so I was gonna go back and read that because I am kind of interested in his backstory. So
right, and just very quickly before we leave the book, if you're reading this, we see the elastic nature of the Marvel Universe timeline jumping right into effect.
Right.
Very elastic, and I was like, when did this happen? What?
And basically, during the whole time, it's like everything he's pretty much done has been on the underside or the backside of the
down low.
universe. Yeah.
He's dealing with the C-list villains that have A-list plots. You know, like evil plots. That's really what was happening.
Yeah, it's like the episode of Justice League where pretty much Booster Gold saves the day, but nobody knows about it.
Exactly. So, there's this one particular scene that I'm referencing. I don't want to spoil it because it actually does kind of take you, like if you're a longtime Marvel reader, it will take you out of the book and just kind of make you stop and say, whoa, when did this happen now in the current Marvel continuity?
Right. And then, because there was some sort of chronological order they were going up until, if I'm thinking about the same event, once it gets to that point, that's where it just says that. Yeah,
exactly. It's like, wait, this is when the Age of Heroes starts? What year?
Right, exactly.
So, that's definitely jarring for a long-time reader.
Which I guess now that I think about it, though, I guess that is kind of pointing to a specific time.
Right.
But it's just not necessarily saying that.
Right. So. Okay. And anybody else have a book? I got a couple books that I don't think anybody read. I'm checking the list now.
Here, let me throw another one out. Nightcrawler number one.
Go ahead. I did not read that.
Yeah. Chris Claremont. So you probably know. I can't say that I've full knowledge of his history, but I do know the X-Men is his baby, and he's got legacy over it. And I was reading the book back then. But all I'm gonna say about this book is I guess pretty cool because it's kind of nostalgic, which I guess you kind of expect.
Right.
So it pretty much deals with Nightcrawler starting to acclimate to him being back on Earth, or back alive rather. There's a lot of callbacks to Excalibur, including his ex-girlfriend, which may be again Amanda Sefton.
Oh, okay.
Comes back into play, and the plot kind of deals with them and something that happens in the book with them. But I enjoyed this book because of the little callbacks to other things that I actually do remember, and it was a pretty good read.
Nice.
So, and the art, yeah, I mean, I thought so. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be sustainable, but it had a good. It's like, okay, hey, I remember this. So
wasn't he the focus of Amazing X-Men?
That first story arc, yes, but I don't think he will be going forward.
Okay, because I was going to say, do you really need a second Nightcrawler themed book?
See, that's what I was kind of wondering about. Like I said, I'm not even sure if this is going to be sustainable. And it sounds like, from what I've read a couple of different times, they may made this into like he might be with Wolverine in a arc for something. In fact, that may be even touched on in this book actually, or this issue. But they kind of went on and done something else. So it could be just him with other X-Men at some point in this book. So almost like a team-up book, but not so much.
Interesting. I mean, I'm definitely going to read this book this week, so, I'll see what I think. It's interesting. I'm glad Nightcrawler is back.
Yeah, indeed.
And I'm glad Todd Knock is drawing them.
Oh, yes. Good job, Lon.
Oh, yeah, that art was really nice in there.
Right. So I saw that you also read Iron Fist #1.
I did.
So what did you think of it?
I am not certain what to think of this book.
So, did you read the Fraction and Aja?
No, I have it on my list.
Oh, you have to read.
I know. I hear that's good.
That develops the character so well, and I think that this particular issue, it's kind of off-putting.
Why is Iron Fist all pissed off looking in this book? And
that's
Mighty Avengers, he's all like his normal kind of cheerful self.
Yeah.
Right. I have to tell you that that's what I found kind of off-putting about this book, because they've developed the character to this point, and now it seems like the last time we see him in an Avengers book, he's not. He's sort of just like a regular old Danny Rand, and then we get to him in this, and like you said, he's all, not emo, but, just really angry.
Right. So I think they were kind of
that, disturbing.
Right. I think they were kind of setting him up like almost like Black Widow's book is kind of doing. Like, granted, with her, that the way they play her in that book is not much different than what they have been playing her anywhere else. But in but yeah, they seem to be setting up the fact that Danny's a little broken because they're pretty much going back to before he was Iron Fist, setting up some stuff with his family, and then now he's going to end up. Let's put it this way: it's Iron Fist. He's going to be going back to a familiar place for Iron Fist.
Right. And what's funny is that I think, how long has it been since the Fraction and Aja miniseries?
It's about, what, 5 years?
It's been long enough.
But I don't know.
It's been long enough, I think, that maybe some of the younger readers, unless they're picking up trades, which they can, obviously, and with digital comics, it's a little easier.
Right.
But, I wonder if they're not just trying to, create an Iron Fist story where he is a little darker and a little, like he's coming from a more broken place as opposed to, being the Zen master type. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he's not. I'm going to throw in a Kung Fu Panda reference. He's not found inner peace. You know what I mean?
Right. And then some of that is actually, kind of comes out in the book.
Right.
There was even this is probably not that much of a spoiler. It was like he's in a fight and then.
That's right.
He loses his chi more or less. He just has a misfire, as they say. So it's like there's going to be exploration of that going forward.
Well, listen, Kari Andrews does a great job on art on this book.
Mm-hmm.
It's dynamic, it's fluid. The whole, like the pattern, the layout and the layout of the action is just phenomenal. Your eye is moving across the page. It just flows, and it's a great, it's a beautifully drawn book. Like I said, the story I'm not so sure about.
Right.
I'm willing to give it a second issue, but I'm not so keen on having Danny Rand just be like, Mr. Angry Man.
Right. Well, two things. I thought the art was good, but it was just a little bit busy in a couple of spots.
Okay.
Or at least one spot, I should say. But yes, you're right. The art flows quite nicely in it, and I'm thinking the Netflix series that is coming out. This is probably, I don't know, this is not going to be a direct tie, but I'm kind of wondering if they're going to go that far.
You know what?
Whatever that's going to be.
Now that you mentioned the Netflix series, I'm wondering if they wouldn't, kind of go in this direction, because it's kind of hard to set up the mystical city of Kunlun with all the 5 weapons. You know what I'm talking about? The
right.
From well, you didn't read it, but you're.
I know of the 5 weapons, yeah,
right.
but
like imagine trying to set that up in a Netflix series. So
right.
this is maybe a little bit more easy to kind of set. This is a little bit easier to set up on a TV show. The way this particular issue played out. That's not a bad. No, that's not a bad thought.
It's all about pushing the product.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
Synergy, man. Synergy.
Alrighty.
Is it click of the week time?
Wait. Avengers AI. I'm gonna miss this book. It's gotten weird. They're setting up going in 10,000 years into the future, and the book ends next issue.
The way you were talking, the way you put your notes, I thought it was this issue was the last one.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think I did that with another book that has met a similar end. But yeah, it's next issue that is going to end, and this was such an interesting, weird book. Because it was just kind of off on its own, they had some loose ties to it. I mean, the Human tie-in book was whatever it was, but this book seemed like it was just kind of gonna go for itself, and I'm gonna miss it.
I wonder what they're gonna do with the Vision once this is over.
Yeah, he could find his way back into one of the Avengers books or something. I don't know.
He's gonna be in the movie. Supposedly going to be in Age of Ultron, so he won't be going too far away, I assume.
That is true.
All right, I want to throw in a couple here.
Go for it.
Superman Wonder Woman 7.
Oh, I read that. Go ahead.
Actually, the thing is that this once again struck me the same as it did last month, where it's a character book. There's not a lot of the conflict in this book. There's not a lot of action in this particular book. It's again
setup.
Yeah, well, it's looking at them as regular people. It's almost like the
Right.
Hawkeye. What Hawkeye is doing in Marvel is what this book is trying to do for DC, and kind of showing like slice of life almost with how would they possibly spend their downtime. Um, this follows after the nuke that blew up, and everyone at the end of the last issue, there were people freaking out online, like, "Oh my gosh, they're gonna kill Superman" and all this kind of stuff. And of course, no, none of that happens. But I do want to say that I enjoy the characterization of them, and the artwork in this book is beautiful. But it once again reminds me that, I don't read Wonder Woman,
Hmm.
and I don't know what is happening in her titles. And at one point in this book, he's like, "Oh, so you're the god of war now?" It's like, "How did this happen?" And it's just kind of one of those things where I'm like, "Really? She is?" Like, I didn't know about that. Like, nobody's talking about it online. It's not like big spoilers or anything like that. Does anybody read Wonder Woman anymore nowadays? It's like the only way I find out anything about her character is by reading this book. Um, but I like the way the characters are portrayed. I just think that this book this feels like an after book. Like, you're going to read Superman, you're going to read Wonder Woman, and then this is the book you kind of read after that kind of fills in some of the holes. This doesn't feel like it's a destination book. And I think that's the one thing that they really need to fix with this title. But the artwork's beautiful. It's one of the best looking books out there. But it just needs something more to hook you and reel you in on it. I don't know. Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
I agree with most of those points. I feel like they definitely want to explore not just the downtime, but just the kind of the touchy-feely emotional parts of their relationship. And I think that's definitely one of Soul's goals, is to kind of explore that side. There definitely is some doomsday developments in this, which are kind of, it's just kind of, there's definitely a setup. There's definitely some foreboding aspects to this issue. I felt like it was a long, aftermath issue from the nuke going off. It's like, really, it took us an entire issue just to deal with the after effects of that.
Well, I mean, it's not every day that a nuke goes off.
That's true. That's true, but this is comics after all. Maybe they're trying to make that more unique nowadays, right? But it was it seemed like just a real filler issue for me.
I will say I haven't read it, but I was sitting here flipping through it while you guys were talking. Lola XOXO from Aspen Comics. The art is pretty nice. This would be a book that Dork Geekers would like because the art is good.
Okay.
I flipped through that book too, but it was one of those things where I flipped through it and it just didn't grab my attention. Like, I kind of flipped through it and it's like, maybe it's something I'll read later, but for right now, just, I don't know.
Oh, this is volume. Okay, so it's volume 1, part 1 of 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, I gotta admit the art looks pretty nice. I may or may not flip through this to see what the heck this is about. We'll see. More likely not, because I have so much other stuff to read. But I just wanted to point it out because art looks nice.
All right. So are we up to? Oh,
no,
go ahead.
Walking Dead 125.
All right.
It is, once again, I'm very disappointed.
Shark jumping?
In this series. It's...
Shark jumping?
Well, yeah, exactly what I said last month is probably going to happen is what happened. He's not infected. He realizes that the arrow he was shot with did not have the zombie blood encrusted on it, so he doesn't have the virus, so he's going to live.
Saying Rick.
Yeah, Rick. And so that was the tension of the last couple issues was, oh my God, he's infected, he's gonna die, blah 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 blah. And no, he sure doesn't. And this book ends with what's supposed to be a game-changing cliffhanger, which, like, I don't know. It's like I read the last couple pages and I go, oh, I bet I know exactly what's going to happen. And then you get to the very last page, it's like, yep, that's exactly what it looked like they were gearing towards over the last couple pages. I don't know if I've just become cynical with predictability in some of these books, but for All Out War being the big, giant anniversary series, and this is, the penultimate issue of the crossover, I'm just kind of at this point going, this is a series that I'll probably, when we unpack it to do inventory, I'll flip through it and read it just to see what's up with the characters. But I mean, unless something else major happens, I'm just not really feeling the excitement like I was a year ago. So not my click of the week.
Anyone read Invincible? Dorkika's ass.
Like I told you before the show, I skimmed through it, but I haven't been keeping up with the book at all, so I don't really know what.
I read I apparently missed an issue because I know what happened up to Mark basically trading places with himself in the other universe, and then in this book suddenly he's back home. And I don't remember the transition from the other universe to this universe, so I apparently missed an issue in between, so I'm going to have to go back and look. But I did read the first half, which is where the big bombshell for this issue comes through.
Right.
And the bombshell in this issue is exactly the type of thing you come to expect in Invincible. It's a character bombshell, not a story bombshell. It's... to me, actually, this is honestly what kind of popped into my mind when I was reading the first part of this book. Is to me, it felt like the old Green Arrow mature readers series that DC had in the late '80s, where stuff, the big stuff that happens that changes the game is what happens between the characters, not necessarily the villain's big plot and whatever. So for people who've been longtime readers, it's definitely one of those soap opera, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're doing that type of thing. But Invincible's a book where, things can change on a dime. The whole series will take a left turn out of nowhere. So it's a good follow-up. It's a good, continuation of what's been going on.
Yeah, it seemed to, because for me skimming the book, it actually seemed like it kind of not necessarily called back, but say, hey, this kind of happened, or it was enough to where I would kind of get a grasp on what was kind of going on.
Mm-hmm.
So for that, it was appreciated. But I obviously not read the book. I don't know the full backstory, but this was enough to get me to say, oh, okay.
Well, Invincible is definitely holding up a whole lot better than Walking Dead at this point.
I want to add, as someone who's back still in the 20s of Invincible, at least some of them the preview images and whatnot I see, it seems like the art, I like Ryan Otley's art even back then, which probably 4 years ago, whenever they were back in the low numbers. But his art looks like it's a lot better now. Just that cover looks, maybe it's the coloring on it, but I don't know, it looks pretty nice. I just wanted to point that out.
He is very good at facial expressions and getting across what's happening with the characters without having to overplay it too much, So I think he's the perfect fit on a book like this. He can do the big, bloody superhero battles in space, but then when you have an issue where there's 5 pages of 2 people having a conversation, it's also interesting and well done.
Mm-hmm. All right. This was just one of those books I was like, I keep hearing about it, and I kind of want to go. I'm probably going to go back and check it out. It's on the list, basically.
Yeah, I'll probably binge read it or something at some point.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those books that you could sit down on a Saturday afternoon and spend 2 hours and probably get through 60 issues. Like, because a lot of it does get into these big, massive fights that you don't necessarily have to, get into a whole lot of detail with. It's like dudes punching each other and stuff blowing up happens a lot, and it does do that swing where he'll have stuff exploding and big fights and whatever, and then there's the fallout, and there's just as much time given to the fallout and the recovery and dealing with the decisions that they had to make in the heat of battle as there is with sometimes there'll be a whole issue and the entire issue is just dudes punching each other in the face, so you can binge read. This is a really good one to binge read, and you can get through a lot. And once you start to get that pace of how it all plays out, it does, definitely follow its own beat. And once you kind of get that feel for it, then it does flow very easily.
Okay. Alrighty.
Click of the week.
Man, I'm torn.
Here, all right, I'll go. My potential click of the week, had I been able to finish it, was probably going to be Daredevil number 1.5. I did not have a chance to finish it. It's a extra-sized book because it's an anniversary. It's it's a celebration of 50 years of Daredevil. So it's a great the story itself by Wade and I think it's Rodriguez in the first the main story was was pretty good of what I read, but I can't in good conscience make this my click of the week because I didn't have a chance to finish the book. So my click of the week is actually going to be surprise, all new Ghost Rider number 2. And the reason why I'm saying why I was surprised after reading it and kind of considering what else I had read, I make this my click of the week because I was intrigued by the last page in the last panel, and I find that Trad Moore's art is kind of growing on me, even though it's kind of I want to say it's not
funky.
Really, yeah, it's funky, it's cartoony, but I definitely dig the cars. His rendition and depiction of the cars. I don't know if he's using like SketchUp or a computer program to kind of keep the renditions of the cars accurate or consistent. Which is definitely a tool that modern artists can use. You know what I mean? Especially like drawing using their Cintiq tablets and whatnot, right? But I was jazzed. Like I saw, like a early '70s Monte Carlo in this, and I was like, oh my god, that brings back memories. I remember those cars. Like our family had a car like that. When I was a kid. You kidding me? So, the cars kind of brought me back. The action is definitely well drawn. Like the movement of this particular version of Ghost Rider is very well done. Obviously, with trailing fire makes movement, makes speed lines kind of redundant. You know what I mean? It's I enjoyed the book, and like I said, the art is really what draws me into this. As quirky as it is, it's what draws me in.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick. And it's between Batman Eternal and All New X Factor. I'm sticking with my X books. All New X Factor number 6. For all the reasons I said earlier during my review. It's probably for X books, I'd have it number 2 behind All New X-Men, I believe.
Oh, currently, nice.
If I'm counting them all correctly.
Nice.
Because, yeah, Uncanny I don't really care too much about. X-Men is X-Force is Am I forgetting one? I don't think so.
Uncanny Avengers, or I don't know, or X-Men. Did you say X-Men Adjectiveless?
Yeah, just an adjective. If I'm including Uncanny Avengers, then X Factor would be third. But if you're not, then second.
Mm.
I'm still a fan of Wolverine and the X-Men, just because it deals with the school.
Oh yeah, see, I forgot about Wolverine and X-Men. But it just relaunched. It just relaunched, so I still gotta wait and see.
Okay.
All right.
So here's my dilemma. But before I even get to that, here's what I want you guys to read, because I was telling Tim before the show. I was skimming through What If Age of Ultron #2. I want y'all to read that book because
Which book?
Okay.
What If Age of Ultron #2. Because last time, I think, was that last week when I mentioned the first one?
Yeah, you're the one that read it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is not that book. Like last week seemed like it was an episode of.
That's funny.
Forget what I said last week.
Well, no, don't forget about that on that particular issue. But it is actually kind of setting up like I thought it was. Because like I said last week, it was like they seem to be doing like one-off books or one-offs each issue. Wherein, because it seemed like the last issue played like an episode of Twilight Zone. This one kind of is like a Tales from the whatever, like Tales from the What If universe. And from there, I need to go back and read it, but from them thumbing through it, it's like, this got a little weird. But it's kind of amusing in spots, actually. And the art is...
That's a nice cover.
Yeah, the art is on the cover is not necessarily the same, but the art on the inside is pretty nice. And I was actually trying to draw a parallel from where the art came from. And the closest thing I come from was an issue of Hawkeye, which had a similar style book. I mean, similar style art, which may have had the same artist. I can't remember. So
that's not your click of the week.
It is not my click of the week, but I do want y'all to read that one because you will find amusement in it, I think. But for click of the week, it's either going to be Captain Marvel #2 or Nightcrawler. But I'm thinking I'm going to go for Captain Marvel #2.
I read this too. I like this. It's a good thing.
I like how y'all picking clicks and mention them on the show.
Well, I was going to mention it, but I was halfway in before I even actually forgot about it because that was like one of our last reads.
Not that you have to pick it up earlier in the show.
Right. I was reading this on the way home. I didn't have a chance to put it into the list.
Yeah.
It's just funny that way.
But this was a fun read. Carol's like it's still like it's kind of back up when she first gets into space. She meets up with the Guardians. The reason why this book is probably going to be my click of the week is because of the interactions between Carol and the Guardians, but more specifically Rocket Raccoon.
Right, and the Flurkin.
And the cat and the Flurkin. Yes.
I'm glad you picked this. I'm glad you brought this up because I do remember having fun reading this.
Yeah.
Although it read very quickly because it seemed like they just went from one like joke and one kind of quick battle scene to another. So
right,
it kind of went very quickly.
Yeah, like that one little panel where Drax and Groot are playing cards and they had the card on his head.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I like this. I'm glad you made this your click of the week.
I am also kind of torn. I want to do Batman Eternal because I enjoyed it a lot, but I think what I'm going to have to do is go with Magnus, just because I think I enjoyed it just like a quarter of a centimeter more.
Okay.
Like, it's just one of those things where it just barely kind of edges out Batman Eternal as much as I want to choose that one. Magnus just it's one of those books that I just really enjoyed. I have such good feelings after reading it. It's such a fun character. It's a fun story the way they put it together. They did some interesting sequences with the artwork. So overall, it just fired on all cylinders. I don't think any part of it failed on any level. So I think just this is about as perfect as a book as it could have been this week.
All right, cool.
That's everyone's clicks of the week.
Yeah.
Although I could have, really, if I want to be honest, I almost could have gone with Girls and Corpses magazine, but I decided not to.
And that is not an
nice. Make that your non-superhero book click of the week.
All right, so that should wrap up another exciting episode of the Comic Book Chronicles. Make sure to follow us on our individual Twitter accounts. I'm at TimDLGG98 and at TheClickNation.
Flurkin!
Dirt is at PCN_Dirt and PopCultureNetwork.com. Agent 70 is at Agent_70. And RoddyCat is at RoddyCat and at News Nerds Need.
Indeed.
Hell yeah.
That will be back next week, and we may discuss Captain America: The Winter Soldier. We may not. You'll just have to tune in and see. So we are the Comic Book Chronicles, and we are signing off.
Peace!
Bye now.